In this Track and Trade Pro Seasonals Trading Training video, I want to talk to you and give you just a quick introduction to the Seasonals plugin. The Seasonals plugin comes as a separate plugin to Track and Trade Pro, and it is an indicator. It's a special indicator that's designed for one specific purpose, and that's because these markets have a very seasonal nature to them. Let's take this wheat contract, for example, that we're looking at. Wheat is planted at the same time every year. It's harvested at the same time every year. It's susceptible to disease and fungus at the same time every year, and destructions at the same time every year. It's susceptible to price change and actions and distribution changes at the same time every year. And because of that, the market seems to generate price actions based on those events at the same time every year. So it's important for us as traders to know what these different seasonal events are doing to the market and what they have done to the market in past history. That's what the Seasonals plugin does. The Seasonals plugin takes the price action over the last 20 years, puts it into an indicator, and tells us over the last 20 years whether prices during this period of time in the year are generally up or down. That's a very important thing for us to know, because we don't want to be bucking the seasonal trend. If generally prices of wheat are up at this time of year because they're susceptible to destructions at this time of the year, then we need to be aware of that. Or if prices generally go down this time of year because it's the harvest time of the year and there's a glut or an overabundance of grain on the markets and nobody wants to pay a high price for it, and that pushes the prices down, we need to know when that time of period is. And that's what the Seasonals indicator does for us. Now I'm going to show you how it works. When you have the Seasonals indicator, it gives you two buttons down here at the bottom. And I want to show you this first one here now. This is the Seasonals button, and you press that, and you'll notice that the defaults have it come up with a blue model and a red model. The first line, the red line, you'll notice is 15 years. That's the last 15 years average of what the market has done. Notice that it has a tendency to go up during this time of year, and it has a tendency to go down during this time of year. And then it goes a little bit flat and wobbly through this time of year, but then it has a gentle uptrend during this time of year. You'll notice that the 1 year, that the blue marker, which is set to just last year, it's like what did it do last year, is just 1 year's average, is set that during this time of year last year it was going up. Now let's go up into our control panel, because we have a number of different settings that we can change, and it's under the My Default Settings. So we come under here, and you'll see your Seasonals in here. Again, if you have the plugin, you'll have this little button right here. If you don't have the plugin, then it won't be there. If you click on it, you'll notice that you then have three different sections for the different parts of this indicator. The first one is what we were looking at before. Down in the bottom window, we had that set to 1 year. I'm going to come in and change that. I'm going to change it to 10 years. I'm going to apply to all active charts, so it changes my chart. And I want to display these. And apply to all active charts. There we go. And I've turned that on to 10 years and 15 years. The blue solid color is my 10-year mark, and my red line is the 15-year trend. So I want to go back. I want to fill background, and on the trend 1, and on the scale seasonal 2, the last 12 months, because the last 12 months are the most important to me, and it's set on a 0 to 100 scale. That's this first part of the indicator. Now let's apply to all charts and go back out and take a look at it. There we go. So this is what the seasonal market has a tendency to do during this time of year. During this time of year, during April to July, wheat has a tendency to go down in price. And of course this year, this is the 2003 December contract, it did just that. And then on this time of the year, we start around July at the bottom, and we start going up mid-October to end of October, 1st of November. We see price increases. And notice there in September we have a little bump. And that's happened every year for the last 10 to 15 years. And we see how that corresponds right up here in the overall market trend. Okay? But that's what the Seasonals indicator does for us. This bottom one is an indicator set on a 0 to 100 scale, and it helps us know the traditional trends of these markets. Now I want to come back in and turn on the historical averages. Now let's come back into our control panel, go back down to our Seasonals, and this is the historical averages setting. And now what I like to do is I like to set it so that they're set to 1 year, and that's the red line. The red line is 1 year, so that just tells us the average of 1 year, so that just means last year's prices, because I like to see last year's prices laid right over the top of this year's prices so I can see where prices were last year at this exact same time. And average 2 is the last 3 years. So I want to see the last 3 years prices on an average where they were over the last 3 years in comparison to this year. And that's the green line. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And let's come and look at this. The red line again was last year's prices. What was prices doing last year at this time? Now look at this. Last year at this time, if we come right to this point here, we play the chart back. Last year at this time, prices started to increase and peaked out right around mid-September. Now this is this year's prices, and if we play that forward, I'm just going to turn on the play controls, and you watch that market, how interesting it is, how it compares to this year versus what it did last year. Isn't that interesting? We broke a little early on this one compared to last year. Last year we went a little bit higher and we waited a little bit longer, but this year we broke a little earlier. And so, but we went up, we started up through this trend, and isn't that interesting to see how they correspond to each other? Now look at the 3-year average. That was the green line. So it's going to be flattened out a little bit because it's going to take out some of the humps and the bumps because it's determined on an average of the last 3 years. But we still see this bump right here showing that over the last 3 years we've had some kind of increase in price during this time of year. That's very important for us to know. And so that's why we've integrated it into Track and Trade Pro. One more section that comes with the Seasonals plugin is the market probability. Now we set this back to 20 years, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to show you the market probability. And what we do with the market probability button is we turn that on, and it tells you the likelihood that over the last 20 years on an individual day-to-day basis whether this day closed up or closed down. And so that's what this is. Over the last 20 years, there's a high probability on this day that it will close up. And on this day, there's a high probability that it will close down. Okay, and so you can see a trend right through here. You can see 3 days in a row where markets have a tendency to close down, down, and even more likely that they're going to close down. That's what the probability indicator is. It's just simply telling you on a day-to-day basis the probability over the last 20 years of whether markets have been closing up or down on that particular day. And that's just a quick introduction to our Seasonals plugin, and I hope you enjoy it.